What's up, guys? I'm gonna take just a minute and show you guys how I choose to tie my peeps in. I've done it just about every which way imaginable, and most of them require you tying above and below the peep, and I've run into issues with that. You want to do either one of two things. Either you don't tie very far down onto the peep, meaning like the little triangles that the string makes above and below the peep. If you start crushing those triangles and serving closer to the peep, making it tighter, it changes your peep orientation, and it can actually cause some peep rotation that you wouldn't have otherwise. And if you don't do that and you don't crush those triangles, it actually makes it to where the peep can slide up and down some, which neither one of those scenarios are a good thing. So this is a technique that I picked up a couple years ago. It is by far the most solid way to tie a peep in. I use it for hunting as well as target. You're not affecting how your peep is orientated in the string, you're not affecting your peep rotation, and you can't move it. So you only want to do this once you get your peep location locked down exactly where you want it, which is the point in which I'm at with this super focus. So without any more talking, we'll go straight to the video. Okay guys, let's get this started. You're gonna think at the end of this that this is super easy, and it is. So I like to start by just putting a little bit of a reference dot on my string and my peep, so I can kind of keep an eye on whether it moves or not as I'm cinching this stuff down. So it gives me a point to come back to in case I get a little carried away. So we're going to start with about a 2-foot section of serving of your choice. The type doesn't matter. This is 14 thousandths halo just because I build strings and that's what I have the most of. And we're just going to do an overhand knot here with one little caveat. I'm going to put it through the tag end through one extra time, so it's just like the knot you're tying your shoes with, except for I put it through the hole there a second time, and I just find that that bites a little bit better. You don't have to use glue or anything to really get those to hold well. Same thing, I do one on top. You might be able to tell what I'm doing here. So normally to tie your shoes or whatever, you would just go through that one time, just like that. I'm just gonna feed it through a second time, like so. We're gonna do that on the back, just like that. You wanna make sure you're staying in the grooves of your peep sight. This one's got shrink tubing on it, so it has some extra grip against the string. So we're gonna do this again, through one time, through a second time, and then we're gonna pull tight. And a lot of times on my target bows, I just leave it like that, because between that shrink tubing and the serving going around it, it holds pretty darn tight. So from this point, we're just gonna do half hitches, which is pretty simple. Let me back this out just a touch. We're gonna do half hitches, and all that is you're just gonna go through there and through the loop you've got here. So you see a loop, when you go through like that, it's gonna leave a loop like so, and you're just gonna feed that back up through that loop one time, and you're gonna cinch it down really tight and just seat it down as far as you can. Alright, and we're just gonna do that. Try and keep track of how many you do. It doesn't have to be exact, but just from appearance it looks better if you keep them the same. You'll probably notice mine will end up being slightly different lengths. So you're just gonna keep doing this all the way up, making sure you pull it tight every time. The only downside to this method is it is extremely difficult to cut out So when you do this, you want to be sure that's where your Peep needs to be, because you're gonna hate it when you go to cut it out. But there is nothing on the planet that'll hold as well as this does. You will have zero issues. It doesn't affect your Peep rotation or your orientation in the string. It'll sit just like it was before you tied it. I'm just going to do a couple more. You could stop right there. You really don't need very much. And that's good. Just pull it tight. And then just trim it very carefully. I like to use a very sharp razor blade. And then you're just going to burn it down. Obviously be sure to keep the flame away from your strings. That should go without saying. We're going to do the same thing going down, but on the opposite side of the string. Making sure to cinch it up, pull it tight. And then the same thing, trim it. And you're done. And you can see it's pretty genius, really. All that's happening is where you've wrapped that around the Peep, you can't slide it up because it hits your knots there. And I actually didn't do a good job of cinching that down as far as what I could. Now on the other side, same thing. So it can't go up because of these knots on this side. And then it can't go down because of these knots on this side where you've wrapped around and it's hitting those knots. Great way to tie your Peeps in, and it is super duper simple. Hopefully that helps. Like I said, don't go to tie this in until you are certain that's where your Peep needs to be, and I think you'll be really happy with how strong it holds.